Hey everybody, today I'm in Mooresville, North Carolina, which is about 25 miles north of Charlotte. I'm standing in the Old Town area, which is beautiful. The train station, now local art guild, is behind me, and this is Main Street over here, which intersects Center Avenue. This area right over my shoulder here. But down here on Center Avenue there is a small town museum called the Mooresville Museum of History. Let's go take a look. Hi everybody, I'm here with Dave Whitlow at the Mooresville Museum of History. Dave, tell everybody a little bit about the museum.
Well, thank you, Kurt, for coming into the museum. The Mooresville Museum began as a grassroots movement around 2002 with a group of us who got together and wanted to have a place where we could showcase some of Mooresville's history. We obtained this building that we're in right now from the John Mack family in 2007, and we've been up and running ever since. So come see us at 132 East Center Avenue.
Thank you.
Good.
Dave, you mentioned this as being maybe your favorite artifact, and it's got a really cool story about it. Would share that?
Well, Kurt, this is a Granville grant from 1762. I mean, if you think about that day, that predates the United States. It's for 550 acres, and a little plat here. If you go out 801, just before Edmonston Road, the land's still there, obviously, pretty much still undeveloped. A lot of it's the Parker farm now, I think. But John Granville was a land agent. I'm sorry about John Frohock, the signatory here. He was a land agent for John Granville, Lord Granville, and he would sell property to people interested in purchasing. And John Frohock also surveyed Anson County, Mecklenburg County, and laid out Charlotte, and there's his signature right there. So this is just a fabulous historical piece.
I think it's fascinating how it came to be in the possession of the museum.
It came in a crumpled up envelope in the mail in our door, and it came from New Hampshire.
So you never know.
Along with a personal note that said, if you can use these items, wonderful. If not, dispose of them the way you will. That's exactly what the letter said.
Okay.
Emilio Carranza, the pilot there, the Mexican pilot, I credit him with putting Mooresville on a national map for the first time in 1928.
How did he do that?
He, a year after Lindbergh flew the ocean, the solo flight across the ocean, Emilio Carranza there, he was a military pilot from Mexico. He helped bring a 100-year war to an end in Mexico through his flying and bombing, but he was going to fly from Mexico City to Washington, D.C. nonstop, promoting aviation and goodwill between the nations. And he took off on the night of June 11th. Morning of June 12th, he was hopelessly lost in fog. Last thing he thought he recognized was probably Spartanburg, because he was using mail beacons coming up the coast, coming up the east side.
So they had particular lights that give people flying direction.
Exactly, and Spartanburg he knew was the last one he thought he saw, but he got hopelessly lost in a tremendous fog in this area. And our Dr. Sloan was coming home at 2:30 in the morning on a late night call, and he heard this Ryan monoplane flying 100 feet above rooftops right around the city here. And he got his flashlight out and started shining. People started coming out of their houses and turning their lights on, shining up.
He had an idea that what was going on.
And Emilio Carranza the next day said, that's when the people of Mooresville saved my life. Because he said in the newspaper accounts, he said he didn't know if he was flying upside down, backwards, or sideways. Because he said several times he actually threw his hands up in his face because he thought he saw the ground coming up. Can't imagine how horrible that must have been. But anyhow, the men in town here got in their cars, about 12 of them, and they drove up to Prospect Church, where there was an emergency landing field for mail carriers.
Right.
And they formed their lights on the field. He circled for 30 minutes and came in and landed. They brought him back to town here, and he stayed, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is that guy, because people knew this was happening. And they brought him back to the Commercial Hotel here on Main Street, and he stayed there until about 9 in the morning. I mean, even that story is interesting about that little stay there. And the next morning, here's kind of deviating to you. I love tentacles off of stories.
Yeah.
And this is the good one, I think.
And that looks considerably like Lindbergh's plane.
It's almost exactly matter of fact, Lindbergh provided him the plane. So anyhow, the town bigwigs at the time, the mayor, the town council, were all out of town, and they were in Raleigh to hear a fella named Cordell Hull speak. He was running for president against Herbert Hoover. Nobody's ever heard of a President Cordell Hull, because he didn't win, obviously. But Cordell Hull went on to become Franklin Roosevelt's longest-serving Secretary of State in U.S. history. I think that's cool. Anyhow, so D.E. Turner was in town, and he stood guard outside of Emilio's room so he could sleep.
Is this a relation to the Turner
Same people.
store?
Yep. And so they got into, they made up a little parade the next morning to go back to the field. Miss Goodman, who was here on the corner, happened to have a Mexican flag. Mr. Lowe at the Ford place, he provided a brand new convertible car to carry him back in, and they had a little makeshift parade back to the landing field where Emilio thanked the crowd, and he promised to return when he could stay and thank the people of Mooresville more appropriately. Well, he took off, flew to Washington, and was greeted by about 40,000 people in Washington, dined with Calvin Coolidge, who was still president at the time, met with Lindbergh. Those two flew to Detroit together, and then flew to Washington. To D.C. I'm getting ahead of myself. To New York, where his father was the Mexican consulate in New York City. Well, he was just up there having a ball, and he received a telegram from home saying, "Funds up, time to come home." And the weathermen of the area told him, said, "Look, the weather is terrible right now. There were thunderstorms and all this in the area, and you can imagine where this is going." He went straight to Roosevelt Field, took off, and they found him 75 miles away the next day. He had crashed in New Jersey in a blueberry patch and still clutching his flashlight.
I was somehow hoping that you were saying he had to come back to Mooresville to...
Yeah. But interestingly enough, there was one newspaper, I think it was the Indianapolis Times, that said in his flight jacket there was a flight plan. And they were listed, A, B, and C had 3 flight plans, and flight plan B included a stop in showed Mooresville. I just think that's so cool.
That's awesome.
But they had his funeral in New York, or a procession in New York, where 250,000 people came out for that, and they took him back to Mexico on this elaborately made up, beautiful train. Coolidge even offered the USS Florida, I think, to take him by ship.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but back to Mexico on this elaborately made up, beautiful train. Coolidge even offered the USS Florida, I think, to take him by ship.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but they took him back by train.
This is a perfect example of nobody knows somebody that was incredibly famous in the day.
Right.
now that me and love go hand in glove, it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new thing. Yes, yes. The world is quite a place. Mother Nature lifted her face. Ever since we kissed, life took a twist. It's a whole new thing. It's a highland fling. It's an early spring. Ain't that moon a gorgeous sight? It wasn't there last night. It's a whole new, brand new, whole new thing.
Over love, oh what a funny feeling. I stumbled over love and set my head to reeling. I started seeing stars, why Jupiter and Mars were dancing on the moon, and that's news. My whole world is turning topsy-turvy, but who wouldn't choose to be in my shoes? I bumped into romance and landed right in clover. I never had a chance to even think it over.
This is an amazing small-town museum. I only touched on a few of the stories and looked at a few of the artifacts. There's so much more to see. I encourage you to come down here and check it out for yourself. Right here on Center Avenue in Mooresville. I'd like to thank David Whitlow, Alan Crawford, Linda Mack Robinson for sharing their knowledge and making this an enjoyable experience for me. Now, where's my car?